The stars above Vesta 9 died one by one. Captain Elira Vos stood on the command deck of Outpost Meridian as proximity sirens shrieked and the atmosphere cracked with the weight of descending warships. She didn't blink. The invasion had begun. Multiple FTL ruptures, Iraqan fleet, came the panicked voice of Lieutenant Harrow. Estimate, 12 cruisers, 6 dreadforms, 2 atmospheric landers inbound. Elira stared at the holomap. The crimson blips spread like rot across the western hemisphere. She didn't bother asking for reinforcements. Earth was 3 months away by standard slipstream. Vesta 9 was on its own. Sound full evac. Civilians to shelter grid 4, she ordered, already turning. Prepare fallback routes and scorched protocols. If they want to hunt, we give them terrain to choke on. The base shook. Above them, the sky boiled red. The Iraqi didn't announce themselves. They never did. Clawed drop pods punched through the atmosphere like comet shrapnel. Where they landed, trees shattered, rock cracked, and flame poured out. Inside each came a warform, 8 feet tall, plated in living armor, eyes like obsidian knives. They moved with feral grace and purpose. And they hunted. They didn't conquer cities. They stalked them. They came not to occupy, but to earn glory in the oldest way their species knew, through blood sport. Human screams echoed through the northern quarter by dusk. Elira watched from the hills, teeth clenched. Her people, engineers, miners, farmers, were being torn apart by creatures that viewed them as little more than clever prey. "Ma'am," Harrow said behind her, "we've lost comms with Central Dome. All gone." "How many made it out?" "Maybe 100. She nodded once. "Then that's 100 they won't break." Beneath the ruined reactor dome, Elira regrouped with the last of her squad, 7 in total. Harrow, now limping. Tessa, the ex-mining forewoman with arms like hydraulic pistons. Ren, barely 19, a medic who hadn't fired a weapon before today. The rest were colonists turned fighters in a night. She looked them over, blood-streaked, covered in dust and ash. Still standing. "We're not soldiers anymore," she said. "We're the jungle now. They brought war. We bring terror." Tessa spat into the dirt. "Thought we were supposed to be the prey." Elira crouched, drawing lines in the dust. "They think we are. That's our edge." "What about command?" Ren asked, voice trembling. "There is no command," Elira said, standing. "There's us. And a planet they don't understand. Let's make them regret landing." The first trap was simple, too simple, they thought. A shattered transport left in a ravine. Smoke. Human blood smeared on rocks. The warform stalked in, alone, reading signs of wounded prey. It stepped on the pressure plate hidden beneath a pile of scrap. The ravine collapsed in on itself, the chain detonation turning rock and steel into a landslide that crushed 2 tons of bioarmor beneath 1,000,000 tons of mountain. Elira watched it fall from the ridge above, sniper rifle slung on her shoulder. No cheers from her crew. Just nods. 1 down. Thousands to go. Night fell cold and hard on Vesta 9. The jungle east of Meridian glowed with bioluminescent spores, casting ghostly light on the team as they moved. "You hear that?" Harrow whispered. A low growl echoed from the underbrush. Elira raised a fist, motioning halt. They crouched. Listened. Another growl. Closer. She tapped her wristband twice. Heat vision flared on her visor. 2 forms, massive, upright, closing fast. Ambush. 40 meters, she whispered. Light 'em. Tessa dropped a flare and fired. The jungle erupted. Screams, deep and alien, split the air as fire tore through the trees. The warforms weren't used to being caught off guard. Elira sprinted forward, tossing a thermite grenade beneath one's legs. It exploded upward, incinerating from within. The second charged, but Harrow tackled it with a det pack wired to his chest. Get down, he roared. The blast lit the sky like sunrise. Silence followed. When the smoke cleared, Harrow was gone. So was the war form. Ren fell to her knees. He saved us. Elira closed her eyes for a moment. No time for grief. He bought us breathing room. We honor him by staying alive. By morning, they had a plan. Strike teams. Traps. Terrain-based warfare. The old resistance playbook. But more than that, Elira began building a story. A myth. She had Ren rig old comm towers to broadcast shortwave signals on Arakan bands, distorted voices, false coordinates, and one repeated line in glitch-rough translation. We are not hunted. We are the storm. In the wreckage of the old orbital uplink tower, Elira found a moment of quiet. She crouched beside the collapsed console, blood dried on her fingers, and retrieved a scorched photo, her and her brother, Talon, smiling in front of the first shuttle to land on Vesta 9. He was gone now. One of the first taken. Skinned, displayed. She had found what was left of him hanging from a tree like a trophy. She folded the photo and slid it into her vest. I'll bring it all down, she whispered. Every ship, every claw, every monster. I swear it, Talon. 3 days into the invasion, the Araka sent their first war party deep into the jungle to find and eliminate the human alpha. They never returned. Elira watched the feed from a drone perched above the clearing. Her team had strung the bodies from the trees, Arakan armor cracked, limbs removed with surgical brutality. Symbols of human resistance etched in blood on the bark. Think they'll get the message? Tessa asked, lighting a cigarette. Elira looked at the grisly scene, wind ruffling her ash-black uniform. They came to hunt us, she said. Let's teach them what it's like to be afraid. The jungle had gone quiet. Too quiet. Captain Elira Vos crouched in the dark undergrowth, eyes fixed on the ravine ahead. The Araka had adapted. They no longer marched in groups or thundered through terrain with blind confidence. Now they moved in silence. Learning. Testing. Adjusting. But humans had learned too. Tessa's voice crackled in her earpiece. 2 war forms. Moving north by east. 20 seconds from your position. Copy. Elira pulled a strip of carbon wire tight across a narrow pass between 2 trees, one end affixed to a homemade gravity mine. The kind that didn't make noise when triggered, it just crushed the lungs and bones instantly, neatly. Ren lay prone 10 meters back, rifle steady. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The warforms entered the trap's kill zone. One stepped into the wire. There was a metallic twang, barely a note in the night, and then the air imploded with a dull thunk. The creature collapsed like a dropped puppet, crushed from within. The second lunged wildly, weapon raised. Before it could scream, Ren's rifle coughed twice. Its head snapped back, body slamming into a tree. Silence returned. Elira stood slowly. Drag them into the pit. Strip what tech you can. Ren moved, but her hands trembled. Breathe, Elira said quietly. They bleed. So they die. Back at the hidden outpost, an abandoned geothermal plant wired with traps and covered in infrared reflective mesh, the team poured over their salvaged haul. Tessa held up a small black sphere. Recon drone. Arakan. Still warm. Backtrace it, Elira said. I want to know what they're seeing. Ren was already at the portable uplink. Got their frequency. Looks like a short-range relay, we can hijack it. Do it. The signal burst to life, grainy Arakan footage scrolling past. Jungle paths, heat signatures, biometric pings. And then a voice. Guttural. Calculated. Target is adapting. Displays predator mimicry. Initiate psychological destabilization protocol. Tessa scoffed. They're trying to mess with us? Elira leaned in. Let them try. They turned the game on its head. The next week, the humans stopped setting ambushes in logical places. They left bait in impossible terrain, bodies that weren't dead, traps with no trigger, blood trails leading in circles. They hacked the Iraqan comms to broadcast twisted versions of their own war chants, spliced with human laughter, children's voices, even heartbeat rhythms set to irregular tempos. Fear crept into the hunters. They reported sightings of humans where none had been. Entire squads vanished with no trace. One war form was found with its own blade lodged through its chest, no battle, no witnesses, no clue. They called them shadow beasts. Vos didn't correct them. In the ruins of an old comm tower, Elira met with her scouts. "I want to hit their forward base," she said, unrolling a crude hand-drawn map. "Here." The black ridge at Whispering Cliffs. Tessa frowned. "It's steep. Bad visibility." "Exactly. They'll assume no one's crazy enough to climb it." Ren checked her datapad. "They've got at least 6 sentries and an automated sentry tower. Plus thermal sensors." "Thermals won't pick us up if we go low," Elira said. "We use the river trench. Come up from beneath." Tessa leaned back. "You're planning a ghost strike?" Elira nodded. "No gunfire. No explosions. We get in, take out their command unit, plant scramblers, and vanish." Night fell like a shroud. Elira's squad, now down to 5, slipped into the cold river that cut beneath the cliffs. Mud clung to their bodies, masking heat signatures. They moved slowly, breath shallow, hearts pounding. Above them, Iraqan sentries stood like statues, unaware of the movement below. Ren climbed first, fingers finding cracks in the stone face. Elira followed, boots silent. The ridge flattened into a narrow path leading straight into the camp. 2 sentries blocked the way. Tessa moved like a ghost, sliding behind the first and snapping its spine with a single twist. Elira dropped the second with a knife between the plates of its armor. No sound. No light. Just death. They entered the camp undetected. Inside, the Iraqan command unit was a grotesque throne room of bone and holograms. General Kroshka's image shimmered above the center dais, barking orders to lower squads. "This ends now. Burn their shelters. Hunt their spawn. Bring me the one they call Pack Mother." Elira's jaw clenched. She stepped forward and planted a plasma scrambler at the base of the projector. "Message sent," she whispered, then turned to go. That's when all hell broke loose. A scout stepped from a side corridor, saw her, and howled. In seconds, the whole camp surged. "Fall back Route Delta!" Elira shouted. They ran, back to the cliff, down the ridge, diving into the river as energy bolts seared past. 2 of her squad went down. No time to stop. The current pulled them downstream as plasma lit the jungle behind. They made it out with 1 survivor. Back at the outpost, bruised and soaked, Elira watched the Iraqan network crackle and stutter. The scrambler had worked. Their communications were chaos. Conflicting orders, friendly fire incidents, and command silence. Ren sat in the corner, hands shaking. "I left them," she whispered. "Left them to die." Elira knelt beside her. "So did I. That's what war does. It forces choices." Ren looked up, eyes hollow. "How do you live with it?" "I don't," Elira said. "I fight with it." Days passed. The Iraqi grew erratic. Patrols overextended. Camps relocated. Rumors of an invisible resistance spread like infection. And then, confirmation. An intercepted transmission between 2 Iraqan officers. "General Kroshka demands retribution. He wants the skull of the Pack Mother." "She is not prey," the other responded. "She is contagion." Elira played that line back 3 times. "Not prey. Contagion." She smiled. "Let's make the infection permanent." The sky burned red over Vesta 9. From the highest ridge of the Black Spine Mountains, Captain Elira Vos watched the Irakan warship descend, slow, heavy, and pulsing with aggression. It was the Bloodcaller, Kroshka's flagship, capable of leveling half the hemisphere with its orbital battery. But it had landed. That was his mistake. "They're done hunting," Tessa muttered beside her, squinting through binoculars. "They're making their last move." "No," Elira said. "They think it's our last move." She traced a finger down a worn field map. Beneath the warship was a dormant volcanic network, lava tubes from ancient eruptions that tunneled through the mountain's base. "They're parked on a fault line," Elira continued. "We don't need to fight the ship. We bury it." Ren stood silent, thinner now, her uniform stitched from salvaged armor. "What about Kroshka?" Elira's jaw tightened. "He's mine." That night, they moved. Elira led the last of her team, only 4 now, into the bowels of the earth. The tunnels were slick with ancient ash and sulfur. Air thickened the deeper they went. Elira moved with purpose, checking each step, memorizing curves and pressure pockets. They passed bones. Old ones. Not human. "Predators come here to die," Tessa whispered. "Feels like a graveyard." Elira didn't respond. She was already beneath the warship. Ren planted the seismic charges along the load-bearing sections of the cavern. They were rigged to collapse the entire lava shelf. Not an explosion, an implosion. Silent death from below. Tessa handed Elira a small transmitter. "Once we're out, press and run. We have 5 minutes before the mountain folds." Elira nodded. "I'm not leaving." Tessa's face changed. "What?" "I'm going up." "Elira." "She expects me to vanish into the dark." "But wolves don't run from the pack's killer. They hunt him down." No one stopped her. She breached the Bloodcaller alone. Its hull was thick, but she knew its weak points, learned from days studying Irakan tech. She cut through the ventral access hatch using an arc torch and climbed into a service crawl lined with bioluminescent tubing and stinking fluid lines. Inside, the ship groaned like something alive. The Iraka were grown more than built, genetic engineers as much as warriors. Even their ships pulsed like living organisms. Elira moved silently, her rifle slung. She wasn't here for war. Just one kill. She passed no guards. Kroshka didn't need them. He believed no human would dare set foot on his throne. Another mistake. She found him in the heart of the ship, a cathedral chamber lined with skeletal trophies. Human skulls. Jawbones from other species. Blood runes etched into the metal. Kroshka stood before a fire basin, his back to her, sharpening a curved blade as long as her arm. "You came," he said, voice like gravel torn from the earth. "Alone." Elira stepped forward. "You called me Pack Mother. I figured I'd live up to it." He turned. Towering, plated in crimson armor. A predator in every sense, coiled strength, honed purpose. But his eyes, small and black, twitched with something unfamiliar. "Caution." "I expected cowardice," he said. "Then you haven't been paying attention." The fight was immediate. Kroshka lunged. She rolled beneath his strike, slid across the bone-littered floor, and fired a round straight into his shoulder plate. Sparks flew, but no penetration. He spun, blade carving air. She dodged again, drove a knife up into the gap under his left arm. It sank deep. Kroshka roared and backhanded her into the wall. Pain exploded through her ribs, but she pushed off and swept his legs. He stumbled. They grappled, steel against flesh, instinct against calculation. He was stronger. She was faster. And more importantly, she was angry. "You think this makes you strong?" he growled, catching her by the throat. She choked, grabbed the flare from her belt, and smashed it against his face. He screamed as phosphorus fire lit his eyes. She broke his grip, drew her sidearm, and emptied 3 rounds into his chest. The last one punched through, leaking black fluid across the floor. Still, he rose. Coughing blood, he staggered toward her, blade dragging. "You are not prey," he rasped. Elira stood over him, rifle aimed, breath sharp. "No," she said. "I'm the reason your kind will go extinct." She fired once more, into his skull. Outside, the charges were set. Tessa's voice came over the comm. "Status? Target down. Ship compromised. Blowing the cave." She hit the detonator. The mountain rumbled beneath her boots. The ship bucked, then lurched as the stone beneath it fractured. Groaning metal screamed around her. Elira ran. No thought. No strategy. Just sprinting through collapsing tunnels, flames chasing her heels. She burst from the hatch just as the ridge cracked wide open. The blood collar slid backward into the abyss, swallowed whole by stone and fire. At dawn, the jungle was still. Elira climbed the ridge alone, skin scorched, uniform torn, bleeding from half a dozen cuts. Tessa and Ren waited by the outpost, stunned. "Did you do it?" Ren asked, voice fragile. Elira collapsed to her knees. "It's done." Above them, the sky showed only stars. No ships. No predators. Only silence. 3 days later, the signal went out. From an old relay tower, patched together with melted components and scavenged Irakan parts, Elira sent her final message to the galaxy. A video. Footage of the fallen warforms. The destroyed ship. The resistance still standing. In her voice. To the Concordant. "This is Captain Elira Vos of Vesta 9. You sent hunters. You sent monsters. You thought we were prey. You were wrong. If you come again, come ready. Because humanity does not run. We fight. We endure. And when pushed to the edge, we bite back." Somewhere, across the stars, other empires would watch that message. And some would smile. Because something ancient had stirred in the human genome, something even the predators had forgotten to fear. Not the strongest. Not the smartest. But the most dangerous. The species that fights hardest when it has something left to protect. The pack had awakened.